All right, muting myself. Here we go.
Support for Wrong About Everything comes from Minnesota's credit unions. Credit unions are locally based, member-owned financial cooperatives that return earnings to members through higher savings rates, lower loan rates, and reduced fees. Visit mncun.org for more information.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Wrong About Everything podcast. I am GOP strategist and proud dad to a daughter on National Daughters Day, Brian McDaniel.
I am a former Republican Senate Majority Leader and a daughter, and I have a daughter, Amy Koch.
I didn't realize it was a theme show. This is I am.
Why would we tell you not a daughter?
Democratic strategist in the Puerto Rican heat. A son, have no daughters, have a sister.
She's a daughter.
I don't know why this is relevant. Javier Murillo. And we are
wrong about everything. It's National Daughters.
It's National Daughters
It's like
Day.
this is not in the run sheet. This
should be in the run sheet.
You
Out of
can't
all
just throw things.
out of all the curveballs I could have thrown you, this is the one. This is the one that gets you off track.
Well, I don't have a daughter.
Well, she didn't. You get. I didn't.
She has a daughter and is a daughter. You see how that? And let's move on.
Let's move on.
All right. Remind me not to do a show on Father's Day. Or Mother's Day. I don't know.
I have a father. He has a father and a mother.
You have a father and a
I
mother.
have a father
We've
and a
met them
mother.
both.
Yeah,
They're
no,
lovely.
Yeah.
no.
They're fine people.
There you go. Anyway, welcome to the Minnesota Credit Union Network studios, deep within the recesses of MBC Studios here in Northeast Minneapolis. We have our very capable podcast producer, Gabe Noah, pushing the buttons for us.
Well, he
today.
did overexpose us, apparently.
That's what he said.
I don't even know what that means.
I
couldn't tell.
I beg to differ.
I
think we could use a lot more exposure.
Yeah, I live
So
my
I
life.
feel.
I live my life from.
We don't get enough attention.
Yeah.
More us.
I have a hole inside of me that can only be filled with attention.
I know.
Yeah.
I've had
I've
multiple.
literally heard you say that. You hear that for now 10 years.
10 years. Yes.
Had some from BWCA project that said he was a listener. I don't want to name people because I feel bad. And then I also had a conversation with another woman on a Zoom. And then later she emailed me and said, I just want to tell you, fan of the pod.
Oh.
So thank you.
Well,
Thank you, listeners.
along those lines, I did a speech.
Laura.
I did a. I was talking to a group at the National Marrow Donor Project last Friday, I think it was, and in it they announce us, and there were more people on the panel than just me, and they said, one of the co-hosts of Wrong About Everything, and we got a whoop from somebody in the crowd.
We got a whoop.
Man, there should have been more whoops, but there was at least one, and that's better than none. So
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for listening and whatnot. Please, also, in addition to listening, please check out our YouTube channel. We're going to post the show a little bit later today. So please, we need more subscribers, and we really would like more activity on that platform. And check out our website at www.wrongbouteverything- because dashes are fine, -podcast.com, and you can catch up on past episodes and all kinds of fun stuff. Additionally, if you have any legal trouble, we would love for you to go see our good friends at Bradshaw Bryant. Their entire team of attorneys and staff is dedicated to providing the legal advice you need, combined with the service and personal attention you deserve. If you have questions about how they can assist you with a personal injury, wrongful death, or criminal defense matter, do not hesitate to contact them. Consultations are free. Please contact them at 800-770-7008 or at minnesotapersonalinjury.com. Snitches need not apply. Don't want them.
Don't want him.
Yeah.
Not Mike Bryant.
Not Mike Bryant.
You get
It's a strict notice.
stitches, and snitches get stitches and no representation.
Not from Mike Bryant.
Not from Mike Bryant.
I mean, everyone deserves a lawyer. Just another one.
Yeah, one that is more comfortable working for snitches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Not Mike Bryant, though. Man's got integrity. So,
What have we got today?
because all of a sudden Minnesota is the prettiest girl at the dance, the national
Midwest princess.
Yeah, the national and federal, the national and state stuff kind of blend together. One thing I put on the run sheet today, which I think is only kind of interesting because polling is stupid and you can't trust it and it only means so much. But new Minnesota poll has come out, and in it indicates, with no surprise at all, that the Harris Walz ticket is up. Some surprise, to the degree that we can believe in it, that they're only up in Minnesota about 5%. So that this poll, which was conducted by NPR and KARE 11 and the Star Tribune, had Harris Walz at 48%, 43% for Trump Vance, with a margin of error of 3.5. Now, it doesn't feel as though it's that close in Minnesota. However, one of the things that I was with some political people last night, and they were kind of asking me some questions. And one of the things that I feel is this feels like 2016 again, where things kind of feel like the Democrats have it under control. Minnesota is not going to be in play. That Trump and Vance are fumbling the ball all over the country. But we all saw in 2016 that was kind of what we were seeing on the Twitters and what we were seeing in the political classes. And, I no longer kind of trust 100% my gut on these things, especially since Minnesota is not really a battleground state.
The only thing, and one poll is not a thing. Here, can I go like this?
What
The only thing that I would say is
This is an audio medium.
Yeah.
Most people who listen to us.
Well, I
don't watch
leaned
us.
in. So it's just like, the only thing I will say is that this poll, it's interesting. I've been hearing about some internal polls that have been much tighter than I expected to hear about. And this matches that a little bit more. And I think the key here is that no one is this race, well, consider it sounds like a cop-out, but no one is running away with this, right? It is going to be razor thin, I think, until election night. And that's what this poll is just saying. Like all around, it's tight. That's it. Like it's.
I mean, the Harris Walz numbers.
Can I say something?
Yes.
There's a Democrat on the podcast.
Well, the Democrat should be an adult and just raise their hand or say,
just interrupt you.
Use your words. Go. Please.
So I'm going to recommend to listeners, especially Democrats who are like nervous Nellies, and I say that with love because we are. There's a piece in Substack by a gentleman named Michael Bryant. It's called "Why Polling is Opinion Journalism" in one chart, and the case that it makes is that, and like if you look at all these national polls, right, that there's for example, he has 3 examples at the top: the diploma divide, meaning the gap between college educated folks and non-college educated folks, like went from 26 points to 35 points in September. Among white voters, it jumped from 37 to 49. The vast generational divide nearly vanished. The gender gap exploded, nearly tripling from 12 points to 30 points. His point in this piece is that the outputs of a poll depend on the poll's assumptions of who the likely voters are, and that's why you have such wildly different reports. Like last weekend we had a national poll that had Harris up like 5, and Democrats were ecstatic, and then the next day there was like Battleground Polls New York Times saying like that Trump is gaining, and there was like a 10-point swing in the New York Times poll for Arizona from like Harris up 5 to now Trump up 5, and I think
even in Pennsylvania went up though. Harris was showing up last week.
Yeah.
In Pennsylvania, or not like 3 points or something, but still.
But now they have her more in she looks more up in the New York Times and other. But like the difference, like do not let, and this is for people like who are political people and worried about the election. What you should take from all these polls is whatever you think you're doing, do more. to help your side to win, because all of these polls just show the assumptions. Like, and what I look to and sort of looking at them is like I know what the field looks like in Minnesota, and I know what the field looks like in Arizona, and there are certain things that polls don't measure with regards to excitement, and so like how excited people are to vote. And so when you look at, like, in Minnesota, the fact that neither Harris nor Trump campaign, like the campaigns are,
really any effort.
is spending an
Right.
enormous amount of money, but I know that the DFL can't fill out shifts like immediately. And like they are like the machine is just going like very aggressively, and like more so than in prior years. And so that is the measure that I, as like, a political analyst and professional at this point, like, funding some field operations, like some independent from party field operations. That's the stuff that polls don't pick up. That I think is like how I assess how we are doing, and how we are doing is like, this is going to be a tough, like, this is going to take everyone to do everything. And I think how it reminds me of the difference between 2016 is that there was a general sense, and I think a lot of complacency among Democrats, that like, well, Hillary's going to win. Like,
Malaise.
Yeah. Well, it
just
was
assumptions.
assumptions.
Like, how
right.
could he possibly win?
Right.
She's going to win.
Well,
and I would agree. Like, I always listen to people I always ask about door knocking, and some people are door knocking, and some people say they're door knocking. But for the folks that are really door knocking, I always ask them about the doors, because I have found
Right.
that to be a much, like, from the polls, an more accurate representation of what's going on.
Well, and I just have a hard time even with that. Now, one of the things that the article that I put on the run sheet, one of the things that they say is that in Minnesota, when there were earlier polls that were a little bit closer, that the enthusiasm gap was definitely in favor of Trump, and that has gone away. And that this article says, the enthusiasm gap for Harris and Trump in Minnesota is largely, a wash, which is fine. But, you and where I guess I'm kind of agreeing with both of you is, or where I'm indicating that it's hard to kind of put much stock in any of these, is that I believe that when people talk about what are their main issues, they say the economy, and the economy is something that, in this article they talk about that Trump is more trusted with. The numbers for the border were really high. Well, and Trump gets high marks there. But I also don't necessarily believe that, because if somebody is worried about the economy, that necessarily equates to them saying, well, okay, well, the economy's not great, I'm going to vote for Trump. Where I think that, when you had a more traditional candidate, Romney and whatever,
it's
I
so
think
much
was,
about him.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And in 2022, just like that, the issues going into 2022, no one picked up on how much abortion would be a defining factor in elections across the country.
Women were very quiet about that. It wasn't reflected in most of these polls, which is kind of to your point, right, Javier?
But it was reflected indoors.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I have
Yep.
friends in 2022 who in Arizona, like, national donors were saying, Arizona's lost. We're going to get Kari Lake senator or Kari Lake governor, and they're gonna sweep. And then like leaders from organizations, there's like one of the best organizers in the country, a woman named Alex Gomez. She literally flew donors in to say, I need you to go on doors to hear what our people are hearing, because and it was from the doors that they were hearing, like, concerns about democracy,
Concerns about
January
the
6th, and all this. It was on doors that they were hearing about abortion, and abortion is on the ballot in Arizona. It's on the ballot in Florida, where polls have tightened with Debbie Mercado-Powell and Rick Scott. It's on the board. It's on the ballot in Missouri, where Lucas Coons has pulled within striking distance of Josh Hawley. And so there are like so many things happening that this election, I think election analysis should always be thought of as more art than science, right? Polling, polling, each poll is a story told to you by the pollster. And I don't mean that means that they're lying. I'm just saying that they make decisions about who they think likely voters are. They measure and then they come up with a sample poll, they extrapolate from that.
Because no one can afford to poll 10,000, 50,000, a sample that would be more. So they have to take 750 people, 1,000 people, and extrapolate from them what that means. And there's always some science and some art to it.
Right. Yeah. Polls. I mean, people are like, you're surprised to learn that sometimes they'll actually talk to a whole, like a lot more people than the sample size, and then weight the sample size. So then they pick people who they've already polled to put them into sample size. So like you just make a few different choices there. And I just remember, do you remember in 2020, I think it was 2022, maybe 2020, there was like there was some poll that there was like one black man who was like, they were extrapolating for like black men from like, and when you look in the, it was like one dude.
It was for the mayor of Lexington, Minnesota, though, so it was accurate. The only last point I wanted to make is that according to this poll, and I think we all have the same opinion on the polls, but it says that 8% say they don't support either Trump or Harris or haven't made up their minds. I believe there are people that are going to vote for neither of them.
Those people are going to stay home.
I don't really believe that people are like, well, one more conviction and then I'm out. I mean, I don't think people are just waiting for one more thing to happen before they make up their mind one way or the other.
I can't imagine.
Well, before I want to make sure we get on to the VP debate. But what are you guys hearing in like? And Javier got to this a little bit, but Amy, what are you hearing in like the real battleground states?
Right. So that's been kind of interesting, right? I think that at least up until early this week, you were starting to see movement in some of the battleground states towards Vice President Harris. And as Javier said, the map has seemingly at least gotten a little closer in Florida and Texas. I think in the end, Florida and Texas go home. But it's an interesting development when the map kind of opens up a little bit around that. So we'll see. I also think it's fascinating that both sides have been pretty quiet. Have you all noticed that? And it feels like there's maybe something in that.
Well, it somewhat behooves both of them not to talk.
I agree. And I think it's interesting to me that there has not been much of anything. I mean, the next big thing that everybody's waiting for, just because there will be something, is the vice presidential debate.
And that is
the last
Tuesday.
10 days, what news has been really made from these campaigns?
No, not a lot. But okay. So we're taping this on a Wednesday. Next Tuesday is the VP debate between Pence and Walz. And my only question, or
very Minnesota debate.
My first question to both of you is that. Are the expectations for Vance so low that he can't lose, and are the expectations for Walz so high that he can't really exceed them? I don't want to say can't win.
It's because it isn't always an expectation game, right?
Yeah. What's your sense? I personally don't have those expectations. But
you're very close.
No. Right. And so I guess I don't. When we say expectations that expectations are high and that they're low for Vance, are you saying just in terms of that like Vance's press has been a lot worse?
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying is that Vance isn't
like
expected
1,000 times worse.
He's not really expected to lower the.
Can't blame the media on that one.
I don't think Vance is expected to destroy Walz with some personal attacks or but I think that Walz is expected to put Vance in his place along the lines of the weird, and I think people that has been how Walz has been used to this point very effectively, and I think if Walz just kind of falls back into a less confrontational, more folksy, numbers-based person, I don't think that's what people are looking for. Now, it's the vice presidential debate, so, we're in Minnesota, so we care about it a lot. I think for most of the country, they probably don't care all that much, other than, as Amy says, it's at least something that's happening.
And it's been kind of a vacuum of conversation.
I mean,
So here's what I think about with Vance. And he's, by the way, this is also Minnesota. He's been prepping with Tom Emmer.
Yes.
Tom Emmer has been playing Tim Walz,
I saw that, and I'm like,
which is interesting.
I mean, you're from
I
Minnesota,
kinda would like to watch that.
but it just seems like the vibe is very different, and like
He's a hockey, he coaches his kids hockey. I mean, there's a
who should have been
I
properly cast in
who
that
knows?
role?
Who knows? I don't know. But Pete Buttigieg is playing JD Vance.
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I listened to
And
just
he was
listened
at
to a long
Spy House
interview with
Coffee yesterday.
who was Pete Buttigieg?
Uh-oh. Yep, I'm not supposed to say that.
I don't know.
Oh.
I didn't
Okay.
know. He was at Spy House Coffee?
Yeah, downtown.
We don't work for him.
What do you
Yeah.
Why are you acting like you have a secret?
I don't know. I just feel bad. All of a sudden you guys looked at me like, maybe
No,
I'm
I
not
just
supposed
think
to
you-
say that.
We look at you like you're talking and we're on a podcast with
Oh,
you.
Yeah.
okay, all right. He was at Spy House
just,
Coffee.
like it's not every day someone says Pete Buttigieg was at my coffee house, so we looked at you. So what do you? Are you sure? Is it? I think
That's
you just
it.
saw another little gay
No, for sure.
man. No.
No. And
You
by
talked
the
to
way,
him?
no.
So how do you know this particular
Okay.
little gay man was
It was
Pete Buttigieg?
All right, Pete, call him.
The person who she
Pete, were you at Spy House Coffee yesterday
the person
downtown?
who she thought was Buttigieg. I mean, we don't know that he's gay.
Oh,
That's I know. We also don't know he's Pete Buttigieg, but
Yeah.
you know.
I think I saw Tom Emmer. Also, no, he's in somewhere else. So my point with JD Vance is this:
Was he in?
JD
No,
Vance-
wait.
yes,
He hasn't been. Was he in town doing? I don't think.
That's
was
what
he
I
in town doing-
assume.
Okay. All right.
Would make sense that they would want to prep Walz close to home, so he can be comfortable and with his family. That's where I'd want to prep. Oh, you're gonna text somebody now?
No, I'm just looking at my friend's Instagram because I would
Okay.
think if he was that there'd be people taking pictures with Pete. But
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think with JD Vance, he does have very low expectations, for real. He's had really some horribly awkward moments. And I think part of that comes from he's probably a little awkward. Two, I think he's very new to this. We forget, but he's been what, 2 years on the national stage in any kind of way. And then also
as a politician,
as a
yes.
politician. And yeah, but you're right. He had some, when he had his book and he said some heat, kind of heat on him then. But the other thing is, I think that he's put in an inauthentic role that I don't understand. He's been like the dogged attack dog. And I don't understand why the Trump campaign does that, because you don't need an attack dog. You have the ultimate attack dog in Trump. And when you ask JD Vance to be it just comes off as very inauthentic to me.
I think part of it is that Trump, we all know that Trump isn't listening to other people. Trump's telling people what to do. I think
Yes.
Trump respects a certain style.
And that's it.
And that's
it's
it.
his style.
So it wouldn't, while it would probably make a lot of sense, pick somebody who is softer, who appeals to groups, women, stuff like that maybe Trump doesn't. It would make sense to pick someone like that. That's not what he did. So,
Yeah, but I never get a feeling from JD Vance that that's actually him. When they asked him, like, what makes him happy? And he said, well, what makes me sad is Kamala Harris. I was just like, dude, just have a moment there where people can get to know you. I feel
Golfing
like
and
he has
Tanner, that's what
he has this beautiful family, has this like storied military career. He's got good story.
Yeah.
He rags to riches, and yet we don't know any of that.
Well, they've
All we
ruined
know
him,
is that he can't order donuts.
2016 JD Vance was interesting. They've made 2024 JD Vance not interesting.
Incapable of ordering donuts.
Yes.
I mean, no one made him that. No one made that's just an awkward dude.
Well, no, I think that
I think at some point he could order donuts properly.
Yeah.
I believe.
No, I as someone who has ordered donuts, I don't understand the challenge, like
It's
why it
not
was challenging.
challenging.
but
It's not.
But it was. But that, I mean, I guess the way in which they made him, like in that instance, what is bizarre is that how can you send a candidate into a place that you didn't first talk to the employees and talk to the business owners? So like
That was just
so
terrible
This, so this
pre-work.
person,
Yeah.
so the person behind the counter is like,
Advance
I don't want to be
was-
on camera, like immediately,
Right,
which
set him
made-
off.
Yeah. So-
Terrible advance work.
so I guess, and that's it. Look, so I will say, I think that this debate, my sense is that it will be much, much more policy focused.
I agree.
And I think JD Vance, like Minnesotans, should just brace yourselves for the descriptions of our state as a hellhole that like no one could possibly believe why we live here. I think that will be the Vance attack on Walz, particularly on anything having to do with immigrants. And so it'll be interesting. I mean, like the thing I would be prepping Tim Walz on is to stay happy, stay focused, do not get dragged down, and do not get defensive and angry, which I think, like, you know, we've seen sometimes when he's been questioned in press conferences, he could get defensive. So that's what I would be like.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting too, because I'm not sure that he isn't also having a role as an attack dog, which I'm not sure how comfortable he is with that. I don't know.
He's been doing a pretty good job of that.
Walz? I think
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah,
I mean,
he's
I hope
taken
he's
some
doing
hit.
great.
I guess you're right. He's been punching.
Did I ever tell you guys the story about how his staff like used my parents to call, like, so that he would be calm before a press conference, like because they wanted him to not be defensive. So when my parents were in town, remember how
Because we've previously established you have a mother and a father.
I have a mother and a father. Yes, thank you. Nice callback.
Yep.
So when my dad loves my husband and thinks he runs Minnesota, and I'm not to
Don't
deflect.
disabuse him of that. He
I know, but
He's John Stiles.
but he was. So we picked him up from the airport. My dad was like, "So tell me about your job." And he's just asking John Stiles all these questions, and then he turns to me and says, "So Javi, how did you get to meet all these important people in Minnesota?" And I was like, well, not because this guy introduced me. So then I was on a quest to impress my parents for that week. Like I pitched myself to Almanac. I got on Almanac. Remember, it's the first time I ever done that. And I called my friends at the governor's office, and he was gonna have a press conference on Monday. I'm like, could I get 30 seconds of the governor's time? After just him say hello to my parents, so that my parents say that I know the governor of Minnesota, and not because my husband introduced me to him. So
did you have John Stiles text him?
No, I did not, because I didn't need to do that. So then I arrived. So then I get there. We get there, and it was the day that Tony Laurie resigned.
Oh.
So it was the first kind of scandal of the first term,
yeah, right? Almost in the first couple of weeks.
But we
Very
get there,
early
and on the Capitol steps, and I say to my parents, I don't think this meeting's gonna happen, because this press conference is gonna not be about what they thought it was gonna be. The questions will be like, I'm like, so if it happens, when we go in, do not sit down. We're just gonna say hello to the governor and get right out. So we go into the governor's office. They're like, come in. And we go right into the governor's office, and the governor Wells is like, sit down. And
no, your poor parents.
And my parents are like looking at me. I'm like, the governor said sit down. So we sit down, and the governor's like, chat, this is 5 minutes before the press conference, and he's just like, and he said the nicest things to my parents about me. And he said that he wouldn't be where he was if the work I hadn't done, blah blah blah. And he said there are a lot of people in positions of power in Minnesota who are very grateful that your son moved to Minnesota. I don't think that's true, but it was very there's some.
Lots seems to be doing a lot of work in that.
It's a lot of work,
but
I'm glad you're here, because now I have a Puerto Rican friend.
Yeah, see? Yeah. Token. Nice. I like that.
I have a neighbor too.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You have another Puerto Rican.
Dose.
From your hometown.
Yeah.
What are the odds of that?
Dose,
my neighbor is from the same hometown
Yes.
as Javier.
Vayamos. So after I texted I was like, oh my God, the governor was so nice, and he so hit the mark, where I was like, and I thought they had prepped him to say,
nice things.
We need Javier's parents to understand that he is independently important in his work here, and they're like, oh, we actually didn't get to prep him at all. We just decided that talking to Javier's parents will calm the governor down and calm his nerves, and he'll be chill like a cool cucumber for the press conference, which worked. But I was like, could you have let me in on it? Because I had prepped my parents to be like,
don't sit, just
yeah.
keep walking, shake a hand, keep moving.
Offer you water, say no.
Yeah. So I hope so if any of y'all are listening, I could we could fly my parents in if it'll calm the governor's nerves down.
Yeah. Well, we're all going to see. I assume there'll be some watch parties all over the state of Minnesota for
Yep,
this.
yep, and we'll be talking about it a week from today, which will be the day after.
The day after.
Yeah. So I don't want to spend too much time on this because we should move on to the other parts of the show. But I'm fascinated by the second attempted assassination. Ryan Ruth. I'm not sure how to say his last name. More because it surprises me about how little we know about the first assassin and behind that. But this one,
and we touched on that. Was it last week or the week
Yeah.
before? Like, why do we know nothing about this?
Now, a few months ago, Routh, the second assassin, gave a box full of junk to a friend who did not open it until after all this stuff went down with the assassination attempt, and inside of it, were bullets and things of that nature. But there was a note in it where it clearly says this was an assassination attempt.
Oof.
If I
Wait, but this is always so confusing to me because so he wrote in advance.
yes,
This was an assassination attempt.
one letter addressed to the world said, quote, "This was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump, but I failed you." So it's almost like
he knew he was going to get caught.
I tried my best and gave all the gumption I could muster. Okay,
This is like
no more
like
malarkey.
made for conspiracy theories.
Yeah. It's up
this
to
makes
you
no
to,
sense.
And then he says, it's up to you to now finish the job, and I'll offer $150,000 to whomever, use the proper grammar, to whomever can complete the job. It's so strange. I mean, obviously, we've talked about it on the show, and this person had all kinds of mental health problems. He went to the Ukraine, tried to sign up for their army, and they said, "No, we're good. We're good." I don't know where he gets the money to do all this travel. He does construction.
I don't know where he gets $150,000.
Well, he probably doesn't really have it.
Really have that.
But
These have been just the strangest.
Bizarre.
And I get
Like,
it. Of
that
course,
literally-
it's always a little bit kooky, but
But like what's crazy about this and what
So
is
weird.
John worrying is that the weirdness feels like it is almost designed to fit into conspiracy theories. Like
Right.
because who
why would he
who-
leave the note
right
in the bag? How
right
did he know he was failing?
right in advance that it was an assassination attempt and it failed? Like that just makes no sense.
No.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I agree. Like
But-
it's
Trump was they said 12 to 15 minutes away from being on that hole, and that the shooter had a what they consider to be a relatively easy shot, which I don't understand
Also,
how
how is
that
that
is
happening?
possible. But
how is anyone getting near
But
Mar-a-Lago?
he shouldn't have been.
He shouldn't have been. He
there.
shouldn't be in public places in predictable ways, and
Right.
that, which is what I think the Secret Service.
But still, how is that not locked down?
No,
How is that place not locked down?
It's. I mean, what they've said is like the challenges of an open area like that are very
sure.
like they're always urging them to move rallies indoors, not have them outdoors, all this stuff, and so Jesus, yeah, it's bonkers.
Yeah.
It is bonkers. All right, but let's go on to plugs.
Okay.
Sure.
I will start. So let's see. Brian and I, you can catch us every Tuesday on the BS podcast. We'll be talking politics. We'll be talking, I don't know, whatever Bob wants to talk about, we talk about. Let's see. Channel 4 this week with Esme, and we were doing a preview of the Walz Vance debate. Let's see. I'll be on Almanac. You guys aren't going to be on Almanac on Friday? Just me?
I was on
No.
last Friday.
Oh, you were on last Friday.
I had to say no because I'm throwing a party that you were supposed to be at.
Oh, I did. That's right. There's that party.
That's okay.
Okay. And then, I'll come after. I'll come after. And then, let's see. And I'll keep you, there's going to be a story coming out in NPR on one of my favorite subjects, which is opposition research, the dark arts, Javier.
The what?
They're doing a story on opposition research and talking about, like, particularly on a local candidate level, what gets done, how it gets done. It was an interesting subject matter. So you can look for that next week on NPR. And I did an interview today on that.
Yeah.
So,
All right, and I guess I will be on At Issue this Sunday with Tom Hauser at 10 a.m. on KSTP. That's on Sunday. Gabe and I are going to be doing some comedy along with
Nice.
our friend Trish Cook. We're going to be at the Rusty Bumblebee in Blaine on October 18th. That's not a ticketed event, but we would love to have you come up to the Rusty Bumblebee in
Is
Blaine.
it a 2-drink minimum?
I have no idea, but I don't
The
think
Rusty
so.
Bumblebee? Okay.
I don't think so.
Cool.
But anyway, so we'll be doing that, which is a ton of fun. And then I have one more thing to say, but I want Javier to do the Patreon thing before I do it.
We have no new patrons, but I think I'm guessing our listeners are putting all their money into campaigns.
That would be my guess.
Yeah, and so if you're doing that, well, I will say if you're doing that on my side, then keep doing that. But you know, if you can afford $50 for Kamala, you could probably afford $5
Probably.
for your favorite podcast. I'm just saying.
Who tells you about Kamala?
Yeah, I know. It gives you all the. You just heard a story about Tim Walz that no one else would hear. Now, granted, it wasn't that interesting, but it was different.
It was a little insight.
It was
very insight on like what prep might need to be done.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I agree.
Did I tell you a
I
story?
found it interesting.
Did I tell you a story about him and his painting? And
Nope.
So I was at the governor's residence, and
Yeah.
this is told
The
Tim
new
Walz.
one or the old one?
The actual residence,
Okay.
right before like
Mhm.
that, and you know, so he goes around. We're at this small gathering, and he tells everyone the same story. He's like, hey, Javier, you see that painter there? You see that painter there? I'm like, yeah. And he says that's where Mark Dayton had it was a Renoir or something, and he's like,
Oh, that would make sense.
he's like that's where Mark. And he's like, you know how much that costs? $10. $10. I got it at a garage sale. It's amazing. And he's like, doesn't it look amazing? I'm like, it looks fucking great.
That's where Jesse Ventura had a Velvet Elvis,
Yeah.
which would
Yeah.
be cool too. But anyway,
He did
See,
have a
another little story that you wouldn't have heard anywhere else.
yeah.
So patreon.com/wrongaboutEverything. Thank you for not being a dick to those who are not a dicks, and because the rest of you, if you can afford it and you're listening and you're not throwing a few bucks so that we can pay our producer, you're kind of being a dick.
And we want to thank our friend and friend of the show, Margaret Gagnon.
Yeah,
Who,
this is funny.
who
Okay,
this week sent me a T-shirt that she made.
Oh my God.
That says "Don't be a dick."
I love it.
Yes.
Look
So
at that.
yeah, so there it is. So just know that in addition to your money, if you want to do some merch,
Wait, did it come like that?
it came
It says
like
rag stock.
Well, I think that's where she probably bought the
Right. No. Oh, did she? So she
we
didn't
don't
make
know.
it.
I guess Margaret let us
I guess
know.
you know what? I don't know. I did email her a thank you and didn't hear back from her.
Oh.
I can't believe that this existed.
I think that does exist. Yeah. No. I mean,
Sounds-
Remember when Lou Dickmeyer sent us our,
Oh, that's
our
right. Yeah, that-
embroidery? There it is on the wall.
that one was bespoke.
That was
That's something. Well, if this just exists, that's amazing.
That is very cool.
I guess I thought it had to have been made like on a
Like-
Cricut or whatever. But anyway, well, thank you so much for sending it to us, and hopefully you got my my email thank you because we like being thought of.
Yeah, we
Okay, let's do some Spanks and thanks.
wants to go.
I can start. So my spank is for actor Kevin Sorbo. You know, Kevin.
He's from Minnesota.
Hercules.
Hercules.
I know he's Hercules from Minnesota. So he's done this before, but he tweeted yesterday, Minneapolis now blares the Muslim call to prayer 5 times a day over the city, yet bans anything to do with the Ten Commandments in schools and buildings. Nothing to see here, folks. Keep enforcing apathy. And you know, because he has the national following, everyone's like, well, who's doing that? And like the thing is, it's just a lie. It's just a lie. And this is a lie that has it's resurfaced a few times. It's just not true. Like it makes it sound like the city of Minneapolis is like through the city, like because the city, I don't know, has an intercom system, which it also does not. That's not a thing. Is doing this. I think there are some individual mosques that do a call to prayer, similar to how churches, you know, ring bells to call people to prayer to church. But it's just not a thing. But thought of this when I was thinking of like how when I said earlier to be prepared for the description of the hellscape that we do not live in, but that JD Vance will portray of Minnesota in his debate with Tim Walz. So Minnesotans, get your keyboards ready, because you know how Minnesotans react when people unfairly malign Minnesota. Get your keyboards ready, because
Well, he does
about
live
to be
here.
outraged.
He's
No,
like
he
the-
does live here. I
he
know.
does
He
live-
should.
yeah.
So he should come to
He's the
Minneapolis.
most Googled person in one of the metro suburbs.
Yeah, he should go to
That-
Minneapolis.
what they do is they like who's the most Googled person in every city.
Mhm.
Like obviously Prince is Minneapolis.
Right.
Amy Klobuchar is Minnetonka. And then
Really?
Kevin Sorbo
Really?
was, yep. Marion Ross from Happy Days.
Who's
was-
Albert
people?
Lee.
People
Albert
are
Lee, right?
currently Googling print because they don't know who he like.
Well, it's just it's based on Wikipedia. And I remember somebody sent me the map because I'll be honest, Amy Koch is the most Googled person in Buffalo. Surprise.
Still?
And, yeah. Oh yeah. So
2004
so,
to 2011.
and I remember seeing Kevin
Salacious.
Sorbo on there and going, Hercules is from Minnesota.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
That show
But
hasn't been
Prince
on in a
was
real-
like
that
the
show hasn't
biggest.
been on in a really long time.
Yeah. Well, he's still in that city.
Interesting.
most
And
Googled.
my thank is there's an independent candidate in Nebraska that I hope Democrats will all focus on and maybe send a few dollars away, named Dan Osborne, who has made the race against Deb Fisher competitive there. There's no Democrat in the race. There's just the independent and Deb Fisher, and I will admit that the first time I got a text, so I gave him like $20.
Thanks. Thanks, Gabe.
We're not going to talk about that. The first time that I got a text from him, they included a picture, and he is like the hottest labor daddy with like a sleeve tattoo, like a sleeve. And I was like, send him $25, and it was embarrassed. I was like, for no reason except that I thought like, wow, that's a hot labor daddy, because he's a railroad guy, whatever. But then it turns out it was a good bet. So the race is competitive. So Democrats, check that out. Hot labor daddy.
What does he think about your mom and dad?
Huh?
What does he think about your mom and dad?
I've not yet gotten to meet him, but I will.
Yeah.
I will.
$25.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. My spank this week is a little bit for the state of Minnesota. And it's a little bit something that's personal to me, but also something that I work on. There were announcements this week in the city of Duluth about multiple childcare facilities that are closing down very suddenly. We have a real crisis in the state of Minnesota on childcare facilities. This makes it incredibly difficult for families across the state. Prices are way up, and oftentimes, even at no price, can you, in some of these communities, particularly in greater Minnesota, can you even find childcare, period? Never mind if you have an infant, which makes it only that much harder. And that is there are multiple reasons for it. There are difficulties. We've had 4,000 child care providers leave the field in the last 8 years, and it's really reached a crisis stage. And if we do not have competent and affordable and safe childcare for kids, the parents are not going to be able to go to work, and it's going to exacerbate a short labor shortage. Everything really kind of starts with families feeling that they have a place for their children to go. And Duluth has seen really is in a crisis situation, or near crisis, as the headline says, with childcare shortage. So Minnesota politicians, let's get our act together. There's ideas on both sides. We need to come together with some reasonable ideas that will actually address this issue. Minnesota families need you. And my thank this week is for the NFL. Because the NFL has been in an upheaval the last 3 weeks, where teams that were supposed to win easily on games have been struggling and getting destroyed. And as a result of it, Brian and I and many others joined in a Survivor League. And the Survivor League is where you just pick a team every week that's going to win. and you have to pick a different league or a different team every week until the end of the season, or until you choose wrong and your team loses and goes out. And in a field of nearly 100 people in the Survivor League, which should have lasted, well, I mean, should have gone through at least most of the season. Of that, there are 2 people left, me being one of them, who was foolish enough to bet on the Vikings last week. That paid off in a very big way. So Skol, thank you, Vikings, and Skol, and thank you to the NFL, because now it's just a head-to-head for me for the big win in the Survivor League. We'll see what happens, but I'm feeling pretty good. I was kind of somebody described my picks as being a maniac, and I was like, oh, thank you. This is the year for maniacs.
I don't know why she always has to have sports ball as part of her Spanks and things.
I literally didn't hear a word of that.
Just whoa. Football.
Football.
Not even that much.
Vikings. Did you get Vikings?
No.
You've been to a Vikings game because you fought with the celebrity chef.
I went to it was like an exhibition game or something.
No, I think it was regular season.
No.
Oh, was it exhibition? Were you at the preseason?
I think it was a preseason, and yeah, right, and then that
You got that dust up about frozen hot chocolate,
which I was correct about. But what's that good dude's name?
Andrew Zimmern.
Andrew Zimmern, yeah, he raises a lot of money for Democrats. But God, like every time he does anything for Democrats, like I have friends who text me like, "Here's your pal." I'm like, yeah, you know what, fuck that guy.
I remember when he was married to the daughter of a Republican House member when he was just Chef Andrew, who was on Channel 11 every once in a while, and he was a dick then. I can't imagine how much worse he is now that he got famous and I guess rich. I don't know.
That's Javier's football story.
Yeah. Anyway.
That is literally that's my football story.
Andrew Zimmern does not like your parents. I bet.
Well,
Probably not.
Probably does
Yeah, I don't want them to meet him either.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. So,
doesn't get to.
so for my Spanks and Thanks, my spank is going to be, I guess, to national Democrats and to conservative guy Thomas Bowman. I'm not naive enough to think that both Republicans and Democrats don't recruit people to run as third-party candidates to try to play spoiler. We know that there have been marijuana candidates that Republicans have recruited. We know that
in this very district,
going back to Sam Garst, in John Klein, he ran under the No New Taxes Party, and he was a Democrat. This happens, and I'm not. I mean, it shouldn't happen. It does. It's part of the game, and that's why politics is kind of gross. But what's happening in CD2 and in a couple other very competitive districts across the country is that the Democrat dark money is finding these right-wing guys who have all these opinions on Facebook. If you look at who they're talking to, it's mostly retired people and people who are disabled. And what they're doing is they're contacting them saying, if you're willing to run, we think it's so important that Donald Trump's vision be realized, and we'll help you get all the signatures you need. We'll give you money, and then these people get flattered because they're kind of. I'm going to disparage them. They're kind of simple here to think that this would just happen out of nowhere, but. They're then running in these races, finding out later that they're there to kind of help the Democrat win, and we have it in CD2 with Thomas Bowman, who's kind of like, oh well, they called up and they said they'd help me get these. He doesn't even live in the 2nd; he lives in the 5th, and they said well, it'll just be easier to get signatures there. So I'm saying this not to particularly go after Bowman, though you're a dope, and to go after the Democrats. You're not as pure as you are, but just to let the people know that these dirty shenanigans that we like to lament happen on both sides, and it's very wrong to just assume or to say or to spout or to tweet or whatever, oh, the Republicans are doing this. Well, the Democrats do the same stuff, and the Democrats do dirty stuff, and the Republicans copy it too. And this is something that is happening in our own CD2, probably the most competitive race for Congress, and
in Minnesota, for sure.
Well, in Minnesota for sure, but
even on the list,
probably on the So anyway, so that is my spank. My thank, and it's going to be about sports ball.
You can check out now.
Yeah,
I already did.
So
drift away.
Picture Caitlin Clark.
Nap time.
Yep. Caitlin Clark, who I assume would love Javier's parents, has been named Rookie of the Year. And this is something that I'm bringing up because she is someone who had a lot of accolades in college, came to play professional basketball and had all of these people saying she's not going to be good enough and that she's going to have this huge learning curve. And, she has been physically assaulted on the court many times, including this week where she got a black eye, where another player quite obviously changed their hand position to try to poke her in the eye
Jesus.
while they're playing. But she's Rookie of the Year. She's setting all kinds of records. And why I think this is important is because we want the WNBA to succeed. The WNBA is almost more than 100% subsidized by the NBA. But now it is starting to get its legs, and that you cannot say it's just because of Caitlin Clark, but it is primarily because of Caitlin Clark. I own one I own one basketball jersey. It is a Caitlin Clark jersey. I don't own a Michael Jordan one. I don't own anything from the Timberwolves. I own one jersey. And the reason why she's so important is because she brings men to watch the WNBA and then their money and all that comes with it. And it is not because she's hot. It is not because of any politics she says or any kind of outlandish or crazy attitude. It is because she is a hell of a basketball player. And she might be not my favorite female athlete. She might be my favorite athlete. And I think that's saying something, and she deserves a lot more recognition, though she still gets a lot. She needs to have some of the people that are constantly trying to find ways to attack her to realize that she's going to claim them as dependents on her taxes.
Good for the sport, lifts up everybody,
Yep.
by the way. So.
All right. And with that, I am GOP strategist and Twin City Sugar, Brian McDaniel.
And I am Survivor League goddess, Amy Koch.
I am on the wrong podcast. Again, what do you do?
Probably. And we are
Wrong About Everything.
You're on the right podcast.
Thank you.
You're super wrong. MBC. No relation to NBC.